All right, coaches, welcome. I got two of the best here from Kentwood, Coach Zender, and from Kentridge, Coach Flanigan. And I can tell you guys, if you play in the 4A and you plan on getting into a regional or into a Final Four, you're going to have to run through one of these Kent schools. So we're pretty lucky to have these guys on here today. A lot of success from both of these guys. So get your notes and your pencils ready. And welcome, coaches. Great to have you guys on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. All right, we'll get started with question one. And Coach Flanigan, since you logged in first, I'm going to start with you. So the first question here is about competition. So my question for you is, how do you create or infuse competition in your practices?
Well, we basically try to do it throughout the entire practice, starting just with playing catch and everything else. We have what they call fence touchers. Anytime a guy drops a ball or misses a ball, both guys have to go touch the fence. That's a little bit of a competition. We finish playing catch with a game of 21, throwing it at their head and their chest. So right from the beginning, it's all about competition. We'll have multiple different competition games in our cages when we're hitting. We split up into we usually start every other practice with a small ball bunt game, where we're working on getting the ball down and then fielding and getting guys out that way as well. That's always a competition. Defense, we finish every ground ball series with a, do or die or, last man standing deal. So that's a competition. Our pitchers they keep track of their strikes and bullpens, and that's competition. So basically we try to infuse it as much as we can throughout the entire thing. That's not counting, when we're doing scrimmage stuff or anything, just real work-wise.
Sure. Awesome. Coach Zender, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, about very similar, but we do it really from the first time we have a meeting before the season. I mean, we literally compete on paperwork. When do you turn it in and put them into competition by class to see who gets their paperwork in first, and our AD will actually email me the order that kids turn in their paperwork and finalize that. So we put a scoreboard on a bulletin board outside my classroom, and then in practice, same thing. Starts with playing catch. A lot of times we just count how many row do you throw without making a drop, and go farther and farther back as you warm up, and then things like that, or just counting how many times you field a ground ball in practice. If you're going through that, from the time you're just doing little toss drills and freezing and roll and freeze all the way to full speed reps, just how many in the next 10, 15 minutes do you actually catch? That increases their concentration level and, forces them to really think while they're performing, and just everything that we do team things as well. And we use a lot of targeting, when we're hitting, we hit to targets. We go to targets, it's, baseball, it's the same, I think, with a lot of guys, but you want to learn, I think concentration is such a big part of the game, and competition allows you to get comfortable in that environment, in a competitive environment, and still concentrate while you're doing it. And that's hard for kids. If your practices are laid back and not very intense, that game that is a big game is going to be hard to handle. So, but a lot of what John said is what we do, honestly.
For sure. Coach Flanigan, you want to elaborate on hitting the targets a little bit?
Yeah, well, so we'll set up our cages. We don't have amazing facilities. So if it's nice out and it's not raining, we have a long cage and two kind of shorter cages. And we'll have front toss or overhand toss. And one of the cages will be hitting away. One of the cages will be hitting in. So you get 8 swings, and your team, how many swings you can hit into a line drive into the corner of the net that you're supposed to. And then those guys, and each thing you rotate, so you start away, then you go in, and then maybe we'll do a long tee in the long one, or even a bunting situation one, and everything kind of adds up. Then we'll have a running one if the team gets back in the long distance run or a sprint or whatever the case may be. And each practice kind of ends with those points being added up in our hitting. So
awesome.
we'll do the front toss or even off a tee sometimes as well.
Awesome.
So like Coach said, there's always a focus, it's not just go out there and take hacks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, always have an objective. I mean, just having an objective, we'll get into hitting is what I understand, but situational stuff. And, if we're hitting off of a tee, we have a target the same size as a baseball. I mean, if you can you hit a ball off a tee and hit a target the size of a baseball in a sock net? That takes some pretty strong concentration, and then we'll do it out of 5. You get 5 swings. How many 5 did you do? A little bit like shooting free throws when you coach basketball.
Yeah.
How many did you out of 10? And we do a
Yeah.
lot of little things like that is competitive. Just almost the way a golfer is competitive with their own score. So we want kids doing that as well as just, doing team stuff.
Yeah, no, I love that. Especially, you guys are talking about targeting and things like that. That's stuff you can do inside or outside.
For sure.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Good stuff, guys. All right, question 2. This one gets more to kind of leadership, expectations, and culture. So, Coach Zender, I'll start with you on this one. How do you create, develop, and sustain leadership, expectations, culture in your program?
I'm pretty simple on this. We'll do a team building night or something before the season a lot of times, but a lot of what I like to do is keep it really organic. A lot of coaches will be more organized and structured in how they do that, which is perfectly okay. I never have captains. I don't want captains. I want leadership to be organic. I don't want to tell a kid, or I think you're the captain, and then the kid has no leadership skills. I want leaders to just evolve, and I look for ways to allow kids to be themselves. Obviously coach them on that and push that, and then I kind of let sometimes all those traditions in your program, or the way one season is so different from another, it does come to me organically. You get one year, you'll have a bunch of kids and they're just goofy as anything, and but they'll come up with something silly and it's their thing, and you just got to let them have it. It's their team. You're the coach. I think baseball is a little more unique that way than, say, football, which is really a coach's sport. I've heard it described as a coach's sport. I think baseball is a player sport, and I like to just let the kids do what they feel natural doing, and then support them if what they're doing is good, and look for it and let it develop on its own.
Awesome. Great stuff right there, Coach. Coach Flanigan, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like he said, when he's talking about you have different teams and different deals that get those guys excited for whatever reason, you kind of let that go for the most part. We've had different slogans or different, just random deals that they'll end up doing. But one of the things that we're kind of forced to do a little bit is, we have 3 teams and we have 1 field. So one of the ways I think our leadership is built is that we have our, guy who's, for example, Cody Darcy, going to Xavier at shortstop with the last kid who made the JV or the C team out there, and they're running through the same drill. And that leadership of Cody being the position leader for shortstops, and he's kind of in charge of those guys throughout practice, and he'll hit with them and he'll field with them. And, he has to, within the first week, introduce all those guys, tell 3 or 4 things about everybody in his position group. And, I think that builds a lot of leadership as well. And, we kind of put it on them, by the time you're a junior or senior, you're going to have to, you're one of the coaches as well. Baseball is a very intrinsic sport. If you're in there hitting, you can get as much out of it as you want, or as least out of it as you want. And you can't watch everybody take a swing, but you can have your position group captain, kind of that position, your returning starter, or whatever the case may be. And he's responsible for those kids, and he's responsible for teaching those guys through, we'll have kids that'll stop the drill if we're doing, a star drill or whatever the case may be, hitting ground balls. And, hey, coach, can I get a minute? I want to talk to my position group about this one double play, footwork, or whatever the case is. So, I think that's a big part of it, and we're just kind of forced that way because we have 1 field and 3 teams.
Yeah.
So that's one advantage of it.
I want to echo that and just support it. I just think that there's such a great case for that. I think John's 100% correct. And when you have kids, you give them the ability to work with kids who are younger and set an example. You're teaching them to be leaders. That if you ever have to teach something, you'll learn it better than just when you played.
Exactly.
Heck, wish I knew what I know now when I played. And I think that's just such a good thing that John's talking about there. I really, really support that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And you're exactly right. The better you know it, the better you're going to be at teaching it, and the better you're going to learn it. And I think that's great. Really good stuff.
One of the things that we have throughout our practice is we have green practice jerseys, but we have one old yellow Kentridge American Legion one from like 1996. And that we call it the yellow jersey. And at the end of each practice, whoever has that has to hand it off to somebody for the next practice and explain why they're giving it to them. And we have a list of about 10 different leadership things that kid did. You know, it can't be, oh, you hit 2 out during BP or something like that. You know, it has to be something that the kid did that helped our team. And so that gets passed on each practice. So a different kid wears that throughout the year. So that's kind of a cool thing too.
Yeah, very cool. That's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, I just, that idea of having position group leaders, what a great idea. You know, the Navy SEALs do the same thing. It works for them. So that's pretty cool. All right. Question number 3, Coach Flanigan, we'll start with you again. So we're talking hitters here. So my question is, what does a day look like for your hitters? So you can talk daily drills, mental approach, on field versus, you know, routines in the cage, wherever you want to take this one.
So one of the things, we're lucky enough to have horrible weather over here quite often. So we do a lot of mental stuff. When we have bad days, we'll come in and they'll read different articles, or we even just have kids. You know, I have my 2 assistant coaches just got done playing college baseball, and all the stuff that I've forgotten in the last 30 years, they now know, you know, and learn from their college coaches. So they'll talk about what their coach talked about in hitting at Seattle U or at Bellevue or at, you know, wherever else that they played. And then as far as hitting wise, we start every day. We have a green and a gold group where one group is doing bunting, one group is doing base running. So every day we start with a bunting competition, and that's our first thing that we do with that. Then we'll go into if the weather's nice and we can get on our field, we'll hit in the cages and do like what Coach was kind of talking about with that targeted hitting, do our circuit out there. And then if we have a chance to do live BP, it's always our first round. We'll have kids do a situational hitting, bunt down first baseline, third baseline, drag bunt. The base runners don't advance on the bunt, and then we'll do a hit and run. On the hit and run, the guy goes to second, then we hit behind him, move him to third, then we squeeze him, then we drive him in with the ground ball middle or fly ball. And then if you go through that perfect, you get 5 swings at the end of that round. For every time you don't execute, it takes away one of your swings.
Okay.
So, and then the second round we go through with them, they just get like 8 hacks or something like that. So that'll be more of our on-field BP.
Very nice. Coach Zender, how about you?
We have 2 indoor cages, which has really been helpful. And then we have cages outside and a bubble cage out there for on field. And so I'm pretty structured every day. We actually like to hit indoors no matter what the weather with the varsity kids, because I can get them really focused for just 30, 40 minutes. And it's all like we were talking, everything's targeted. We progress from on a tee to toss, then to live arm, even though it's not full distance. A lot of situational stuff in the cage. We're sitting at home plate as a list of objectives, a little bit like John was saying, run around second base, nobody out, got to get them over, ball the right side or bunts or whatever it is. We do a lot of that. And then otherwise, again, using the targets, I think that's really important, counting success. And we want to maximize our repetitions every day. So that's really important. And then I guess another thing that we do, I guess 2 other things. We bunt every day as an entire team. We all stop. When I played at Seattle U, I played under a guy named Frank Papsadero, who some people out there may know. Frank was an old school curmudgeon, just lived and died by the bunt. But we do what I learned in college, and we'll take 10 minutes bunting just in groups. Do it that disciplined every day. I think that helps kids tracking the baseball. And then lastly, and this has just been more the last 6-7 years, I've really been open to putting music on and making batting practice, which is always the funnest part for most kids anyway, but doing it right is a grind. I think hitting is a grind to get your reps in and do it, but you want it fun at the same time. And they, of course, on a nice day, they just love on-field BP with some good music.
Yeah.
Now, good music's a whole nother question what that is. But, I tend to try to control that as much as I can. But anyway. So.
I love it. Good stuff, Coach.
One of the things that I forgot too, just in the last couple of years with the multiple teams, we will have a team come in usually at 6:30 in the morning twice a week and do indoor hitting, especially for the weather for that week. It looks like it's going to be bad. Just getting a chance, because I live 50 minutes away from the school, so I don't really want to stay till 7 o'clock. So we'll come in early and hit in the morning as well. And like going back to what Coach said with bunting, I played for Dave Johnson at Ephrata High School, and he was extremely fundamentally sound growing up there, and TBI and all that stuff. And I think, like bunting every day, like Coach said, it makes the kids understand that it's important. Because I think if you just go through a couple, okay, 2 here before you start swinging, it's like, if you don't take it seriously, they're not going to take it seriously. And then when you need to get one down to advance in the playoffs, that guy doesn't get it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is totally not on subject here, but John mentioned that he grew up in Ephrata, and it's kind of funny because here we are, the two of us coaching at in Kent at big 4A high schools, and I went to a single A high school, Mount Baker High School up out of Bellingham, and here we are, 2 small school guys. And I get asked when I go home, for a reunion or something, what's it like coaching a high school at a big school, compared to where we all grew up? And I just tell them honestly, there's a lot of kids around school, but it's really the same thing.
Yeah.
School feels the same. Ball
For
club
sure.
feels the same. I mean, I think it's probably, being honest, there's an awful lot more talent, raw talent that we get. I mean, some of the talent that I've had and John's had over the time just that we've been coaching, against each other in this league has been kind of ridiculous. It's really special kids. And sometimes I just shake my head. And when we've had good teams, some reporter will say, well, what makes you guys so good? And I just go, I like my players.
Yeah.
So, but it is kind of fun that John and I are both small town guys, at big schools and we're rival schools. And we've really had some great battles over the last several years. They're fun games. We really look forward to them.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, I forgot to change over my background here, and I pulled this up for you guys to make you feel a little bit more at home.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. I don't know if you can see it, but that's
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
the old Kent Memorial there for you.
There you go.
And I can tell you, the last time I coached in the playoffs, Coach Flanigan's group knocked us right off of that field. They were pretty good that year. You had Wayne House his senior year, and
Oh yeah.
you threw a pretty good lefty at us. Your catcher was a stud. You guys were really talented that year, and you beat us up pretty good.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun group for sure.
Oh, I bet. Right on. All right, guys.
I didn't like them so much. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Bet.
Really nice job. Thanks for coming on, and I'll post this up here soon for you guys.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you doing this.
Yeah,
Really
for sure.
appreciate it.
You bet.